Hello, this is Tom, aka Gedeon, here for Tabletop Taproom and Star Frontiers Gamer. And today we have Fanzine Friday number 26. So this is the advent of something new because we have done all 25 issues of the Star Frontiersman. And now we are going to start with the Frontier Explorer. And so let's go to a screen share. This is the Frontier Explorer website, which is frontierexplorer.org. And you can click over here on the magazines, and you will need to be on page 2. Now, you'll notice down here on page 2, there's online and PDF. Now, here's what happens when we go to online. There's two things I want to show you here. So right away, this little Cloudflare security thing pops up. This is something new. I've talked with Tom Stephans, who runs this site, and this is some sort of a hack. There's this ridiculous CAPTCHA that proves that you're human and gives you temporary access to the web property. Well, Tom wouldn't even talk about it being a web property. I've never heard him use that phrase. But this ridiculous CAPTCHA, which is ridiculously easy to do, so you think, oh, no, don't do this. This is some sort of hack that to the site. All you have to do is X out of it. But every time you do click a link on here, that will come back up. You just X out of it every time. It's something you totally ignore. I've spoken with Tom, and he's working on it, and this should go away. It's not the first time we had some sort of a hack happen to the site, and it probably won't be the last. But for right now, since it's coming up, I will just comment on it. Now, what I did with the online content here, you see that all the individual pieces of the magazine are able to be clicked on and looked at. So you can go to each article, and each article is a separate web page with this, which is actually really a great service. Like if you want to reference the Don't Go Into the Water article, and this is all just a half dozen different water hazards and rules for handling them or suggestions for handling them. So you could actually link to this as a web page and provide it as a link in somewhere. I mean, this is very handy, particularly if you just want to reference a specific article. And we were doing this with the magazine in the early days, but it quickly became cumbersome. It was Tom's baby to handle, and so he quickly dropped the online content after a couple of years. But it's here in the early issues, so I pointed out to you it's a resource for you to have, and Tom has mentioned that he's looking to go back and fix that, get all the online content up there. So let's just back up to PDF version. This does not bring up that little fake security thing. So here we are with the PDF of the magazine, and this is our first cover. This was me begging a deviant art artist, hey, we love your artwork, can we please use it? So this was our very first cover, issue 1, summer 2012. It's been 10 years since we started Frontier Explorer. I can't believe it. This was a great piece of art, and we were happy to use it. And we did these little quotes that we used a piece of a quote on the cover, an artifact designed for space. And then the full quote is in here somewhere. Where are you? Full cover quote. Man is an artifact designed for space travel. He is not designed to remain in his present biological state any more than a tadpole is designed to remain a tadpole. And this is from William Burroughs, from something called Civilian Defense, The Adding Machine, 1985. So it was an interesting quote, and we did these little quotes on the cover for a long time, up until about 2018, I do believe, is when we stopped doing the little quotes. It was always this quest to find some quote that would fit the cover. And I just love the sound of this, an artifact designed for space. So those were always cool. And there's another neat feature that the Frontier Explorer has that the Star Frontiersman didn't have, and that is these hyperlinks. You can actually click on any article here and go straight there in the magazine, right from the table of contents. That is just great. So we're headed there. We're going to go to the first article of the Dralasite Creed, and boom, no scrolling. Go right there. That is fantastic. I absolutely love that. And I believe there was only one or two Frontier Explorers that lacked that. And it was just kind of we were under the gun trying to get it done, and it got overlooked. And so there are one or two of the Frontier Explorers that lack that. There are one or two of the Star Frontiersmen that have it. So it's not universal that Star Frontiersman doesn't have it, Frontier Explorer has it. But that's the case. But it's generally the case, and it's a wonderful feature. It lets you jump right to where you want to go in the magazine. No scroll. And I love that. So Dralasite Creed. Now I need to right up front specify that this was a collaboration article. And there's a link here to where the collaboration went on in the Star Frontiers US site. So we'll go there, click the link, and it brings you to the Core 4 project. This is not part of the regular forums. This was a special project, just people interested in working on the Core 4. And you go into the forums here. So you see there's a lot of different. Now, there's been no discussion in this project for 4 years. 4 years ago was the last discussion that went on here. Right here, Yuzurian weapons were discussed 4 years and 33 weeks ago. Most of the discussion is between 4 and 11 years ago in this particular project. And, you know, you see stuff here like Dralasite Creed, Dralasite Furniture. And, you know, so this is a rabbit hole for you to go down if you're interested in, I want to research one of the Core 4 species. There's a lot of discussion that went on here, and the Dralasite Creed was a discussion that a number of us took part in, and then I kind of pulled all the ideas together into one article. So that's where that comes from. So you get, you know, some initial discussion here on Dralasite philosophy and the Dralasite social school, the STOA, which was proposed, and was a great idea, because what we did with the STOA is, and rather than the Dralasites having the human-style nuclear family of mother, father, kids, which doesn't make a lot of sense because the Dralasites are hermaphroditic. They have a male phase to their gender. They have a female phase, and then they transition to a neuter phase, and back and forth. And they have drugs that they can control what phase they're in. So if they don't want to be fertile and reproduce, they can just be in the neuter phase and take a drug for that. As per the racial description in the rule book. So there's some discussion here about the social school, which substitutes for the Dralasite family. It's basically the Dralasite version of an extended family, if you will. And it really works well, I think. It was not my idea, but it really works well with the Dralasite species. You come down here and you get this Dralasite Creed. It's just a short little creed. You know, I believe in truth, and will continually test to refine the quality of my understanding. You know, there's 3 points to it, and then there's the 5 appendages. And so the creed, if you think of this like the Apostles' Creed, if you come from, say, like a Christian background, you could think of this Dralasite Creed as like the Apostles' Creed, and then the 5 appendages like the sacraments. So the 5 appendages are the creed, where you affirm it before the community in the circle of debate. The gaining of one's voice is the acceptance by the community or the social school, the STOA, to speak in the circle of debate. You know, when the Dralasites got into a certain age, they now have their gaining of voice ceremony, and they will affirm the Dralasite Creed in the circle of debate and maybe, you know, try to debate someone. The stand. The stand is done in the great circle of debate against all comers, though it is not necessary to merge with one's philosophy unchanged. The stand is where a bunch of social schools will come together And these are social schools that are related in idea. They're not, there's no organic relationship, but they're related in idea. Different schools could actually represent different sides of an issue. And so you make this stand in the great circle of debate against all comers. You've been debating people within your own social school. Now you're debating people outside. And so you now really have to be on your toes or your pseudopods as a Dralasite. The budding, it's an important rite of passage necessary for the preservation of the species. All Dralasites are expected to do their part. I wrote this in because I noticed in the setting of all the species, the Dralasites have the fewest number of worlds, of colonized major colony worlds. And those are Inner Reach in the Dramune system and Fromeltar in the Turladrom system, or Turladrom in the Fromeltar system. And they also have Groth, but it's a minor colony, so it's not even worth considering. But all the other races have multiple planets, and then, of course, you've got the mixed race colonies, mixed species colonies. So I got thinking about it. I thought, the fact that they're able to use drugs to control their gender and not reproduce might contribute to their lower birth rate, that you just get so focused on your career, you just keep taking that drug to keep you in neuter phase, that you just get focused on it. And so they've actually instituted into the 5 appendages this idea that for you to be a fully realized Dralasite, you must at some point have budded and left a tangible mark on society that you existed, because when you're gone, your bud is now, that you've budded, is carrying on the legacy, a tangible reminder of your existence. And then the circle's end is sometimes a poetic reference to death, but in the 5 appendages, it carries the idea of service to the community in the twilight of one's life, coming back to the social school, and passing on your knowledge and philosophy and experience, and ushering along the younger buds as they grow into adulthood and gain their voice and make their stands in the circle of debate. So you have these 5 appendages. 3 of them are about the Dralasite finding their place in society. 2 of them are about confirming their place in society, and that's the last 2, the reproducing and then circle's end. It's a confirmation that you had a place in society. And so that's how you look at it. The article then ends with a sort of an appendix here, and it's these conversations of the malls. This is considered to be one of the most widely disseminated philosophical texts of Dralasite philosophy, Conversations with the Malls. And so there's 3 fictitious conversations that have been written up here. Conversation 12, Conversation 13, Conversation 25. And these are just kind of there as flavor. Now, these are not really meant to be real philosophy. They're meant to be to emote, epitomize what Dralasite philosophy would be. And they serve a purpose. This whole article is not just to be Dralasite philosophy for the sake of being Dralasite philosophy. It's about helping you play a Dralasite in game, and play a Dralasite who leans towards that philosophical bent that's written into their character, into the species description in the rulebook. And now, in a tabletop game where you're face-to-face, or like a Zoom meeting game or StreamYard game, maybe not so much. Although I could see that you'd write down the Dralasite Creed and the 5 appendages on an index card and paperclip it to your character sheet. This is really meant, I did have in mind the play by email, play by post, Discord style of games. Now, play by email has kind of gone away in favor of play by post, and play by post is going away in favor of Discord style of games, where you have time to look up and read and think about, and then craft a post for that style of game. So that's why these conversations to the malls were, it would be there. It'd be something your character might quote in a post. And so it's there to help you play a philosophical Dralasite. Maybe not so much in a face-to-face game where you got to think on your feet a little bit more, a little bit faster. For that, I think just having the Dralasite Creed written down, 5 appendages on a card that you could reference real quick would be the help right there. Now, Article 2, crafting a compelling character in a role-playing game. This was something I did a lot of research for, and so I have 3 basic suggestions. One is the passion. And the passion is, what is the passion of your character? What is it that they are seeking? In most role-playing games, you'll have a quest. If it's like a online, massively multiplayer online role-playing game, it might be kill 10 rats, collect, 5 rings. So, it might be, they could be as simple, they could be bigger. But this was about giving your character a quest that is their passion. And it's not something you're going to finish in one session. It might be something that it gives scope to the game master to work some of these things in for your character's arc over the course of a campaign. And so it makes the character a little bit more interesting. And I know as a game master, if your character's got a side quest, it's a personal side quest, I do look for ways to write that in. So it makes the character much more interesting. Next is the secret. And the secret is, usually I tell players, write a secret that only your character and I as game master know. You're totally allowed to share it with other player characters at your discretion, but I need a secret, and that's some secret from your background. And people usually write pretty good ones. And it's fodder for me to work that character's backstory into the main adventure. So I like the secret. It makes the character much more interesting. Vulnerability. Characters that are vulnerable or compassionate can be compelling. It's known as the Save the Cat feature in fiction. So we have a little illustration here of a Dralasite running. He's got a cat in his arms. He's running from the quick death, and one of his arms is trying to blast the quick death as he runs away. It's the example I wrote in here is, in Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring, Boromir is the traitor to the Fellowship. However, he becomes consumed with desire for Frodo's ring. He attempts to take it by force, and then he tries to make amends by defending Frodo's 2 hobbit friends from the marauding orcs, and he sacrifices his life. And then you have his confession to Aragorn, leads the reader to feel sympathy for him as a character. And so this vulnerability, he was vulnerable that, he had a secret lust. Also this Save the Cat is epitomized by this meme, Blitzkrieg, when you only stop for kittens. I just love this meme. It's one of my favorites. But think about it. You have a World War II German army soldier. He's riding on a motorcycle down a street. You would know he's evil if he just runs over the kitten in the street. But here, he has stopped and picked up the kitten and put it in the sidecar of the motorcycle. So he showed compassion. Which of the 2 is more interesting? Well, it's the guy who showed a little compassion to the cat. The other guy you just hate because he ran the cat over. So it's the Save the Cat idea that comes up in literature when a bad guy will save something, because he's got that vulnerability. He's little kittens. He can't help but he's got a soft spot for the little kitten. It makes him more interesting as a bad guy because he's got greater depth. And then the wrapping it up here is just don't pick all 3, just pick 2 out of the 3, or even just 1. Gives your character a little bit more depth in role playing. So that's the gist of that article. Lossend. This is a system brief for Lossend. These patches here for the Ranger Service, which is the Rangers on the planet, and then Space Rangers, which was a militia service, non-void jump capable. They just have fighter craft. So if the system's invaded, they will respond with fighter craft to defend against the Sathar, marauding. so on and so forth. So 2 patches were created. I believe these were created by not William Douglas, by Eric Windsor. So you've got the service patches here. They're great. There's a review of the government, some short history. We discussed farming on Lossend. Margaret Bovia and Tacton. She's listed as the CEO of Tacton, so we developed her a little bit. Talked about Tacton's involvement on Lossend. We discussed the economy. And then there's this little shadow box here, common agricultural exports. Well, this actually is built off of all of the agricultural plants that were talked about in Star Frontiersman issue 17. So, look at here, this first one here, the native Inuk fruit. High in starches and nutrient, 200 million tons are shipped to Clarion annually. 180 million tons are shipped to Minotaur. 50 million tons are shipped to other destinations. The dried gourds are painted and decorated and sold as trinkets to tourists, and they're used as popular musical instruments locally, but otherwise do not impact the economy significantly. Well, we've given you some ideas, like if the character's freighter is shown up and they're looking to buy, they might get, full cargo hold full of Inuk fruit going to Clarion or going to Minotaur. But also this dried gourd. This is a great MacGuffin. Somebody's hidden something inside one of the dry gourds and it's been painted, it becomes the item that's driving the action in the adventure. Something's hidden in there, and, it could be the secret plans of the Death Star. Who knows? Whatever it is, the MacGuffin in the story. This is a great resource as well. It's been developed from other fan-made materials. The environment's discussed. Local bestiary with imported game and domesticated animals. So we get the pekin, which you read it sounds like the chicken. And there's a local food restaurant chain called Lossend Fried Pekin, LFP. And so you can have some fun with that. We talk about the genuine, why the genuine were genetically invented. They're genetically modified equine horse. And so they exist here, why they're here. The Lossend, again, another genetically modified bovine species. The native species that we knew about at that time were the Lossend dragon, which had been invented by Eric Windsor. In fact, here's a sketch he did. I love this sketch. And you get a stat block. You get information on them. The Waipongs, which were from Dragon Magazine 18, lay over at Lossend. I've kind of reworked them, did a better stat block on them, and worked them in. Some places of interest were developed, including Tacton City, which is default listed in the Megacorp listing for Tacton. Mount Spire, which comes from that ambush on Lossend article that's out there from TSR, and so a lot of information from there. Mount Spire, Sheridan Valley was an invention of mine, and then there's some adventure ideas, some adventure suggestions to this review of Lossend. Next up is William Campanero's What is War? Now this is a short piece of fiction. Look, it's like a page and a half here in layout. So it's basically the core 4 species, 4 members of one crew, and they all happen to be, the different species, discussing war from their racial, their species perspective. It's a great little short story. One of my favorites, absolutely. Little ad here for the patch. This patch is no longer available, but this was the 30th anniversary patch, and we held a little NetCon on September 14th to 15th back in 2012. So Mooks Without Number, Part 1. This is an adventure. It's a 3-part adventure, and it's in the next 2 Frontier Explorers as well. This is basically a Capellan Free Merchants adventure. You're on the ship. You've got the ship here, and right here it's just an outline cross section of the deck plan. And this is like a basic introductory adventure you've just been hired on. And basically what it is it's Seven Samurai Magnificent Seven. You know, the poor farmers are looking for help. And here's the captain, NPC captain for the ship. And where's the cross section? Oh, so I just recycled this map from Alphadon for the farming settlement. It's, you know, it was easy enough to use. We did a little remastered version of it, so you can print this out and reuse it with the die cut counters if you like. Here's a cross section of this CFMS Venture, and I want to point out here is this ball section that you see. That's a gimbaled. That's gimbaled decks actually. So you have hatches in 3 locations. One completely on the underside, which this deck 5 right here. You see this deck 5 has basically an airlock and a ladder to let it access the lower part of the ship. So when this ship comes in and lands, it's got wings. It's designed to land like the Firefly ship does. This front section gimbals so that deck 1 is now at the top, and deck 3 rotates. Deck 3 maintains orientation on this hatch. It rotates right here on the rocket battery in that hatch. And then deck 5 actually goes to the bottom and then goes to that dorsal hatch, which was accessible from deck 3 before it gimbaled. And so then deck 3 now has 2 hatches it can access, that forward hatch up there and this one that's on the axis it rotates on. So that's the unique thing about this ship, was it was kind of designed with Firefly in mind to be a trade ship like Firefly. So then the rest of the adventure, you get the pirates. I took a portrait of the name escapes me right now, Eli Wallach from Magnificent Seven, and redid him as a space pirate in this sketch from one of his press release photos from back in the day. Nice black and white photo. And so this is the write-up. You get the farmers here with their portraits, you know, the main NPCs. Next up, we have Planaron Station, and this was a what if. What happens to Planaron asteroid after the Warriors of White Light module has been played out? The pirates have been rooted out of the asteroid, and the Royal Marines are now going to have to go back and make sure nobody has set up base there again. No pirates, no smugglers. And so it becomes this drain on resources for the Royal Marines. And in the end, in the little history I wrote here, they ended up licensing it to a Spaced Mines Inc. And so that company has a 100-year lease, 100-year charter on the rock, and they've developed it as a ore processing station out there in the asteroid belt. It also, by default, becomes a place where freighters will come looking to get a cargo of refined ore to take to various destinations. So I did a write-up for it, and since you already have repressive weapons laws on Planaron Station, I wrote this up in such a way that it falls outside of the jurisdiction of the government of Planaron, that Spaced Mines is supposed to run the station. Their security don't care as long as the corporate operation is not hindered. So it's very much a Mos Eisley. You know, anything goes, Wild West. You want to buy guns? You go to Planaron, take a shuttle to Planaron Station, you can buy almost anything. So that's how I wrote it up, because I felt like the Planaron system needed that little bit of a Wild West element where anything could go. And so you have a whole station here where that is very possible. And next up, we get CSS Nightwind by Tom Stephans. This is a destroyer-sized freighter. It's hull size 6, And you can see from this cross section, it's great cross section, showing all the cargo decks, all the decks. And then you get into the deck plan and the write-up. And he did a great job with this. This has atomic drives instead of ion drives. You could redo it with ion drives. It might be much more economical to run that way. But because it has atomic drives, this would be a great ship to use as an exploration ship. Just set up a lab in one of the cargo holds, put a shuttle in one of the cargo holds, put some lander type units. You could modify this ship and use it. It would be great, particularly because it's got those atomic drives. This would be great to use as like a scout exploration, type of thing. So this is a great deck plan. And then you make a run for it. These were Nighthawk scenarios written by Tom Stephans, and his first Nighthawk scenario involves, look at that, the CSS Nightwind. We just saw the deck plan and the write-up. So he wrote a corporate shooting war between CDC and Streel, so it's a little dust up between them here in this first one. And then you have Hopelessly Outgunned, which is an opening salvo in the Sathar War. So it's this is a die heroically for the UPF side. They're hopelessly outgunned for this scenario. So it's and the victory conditions are written. You can lose all your ships, but you can still win with these victory conditions. So it's great. And finally, we get this. Don't go into the water. It's written by me, and this is my second hazardous environment article. The first involved the hazards of the dust, the regolith on the moon, why it's hazardous, and that was in the Frontier Explorer. This involved, water, all things, tidal bore. I wrote up some quick little rules here for handling a tidal bore if a character got caught in it, what would happen, whirlpools, water spout, and I think I used the grenade bounce table to determine the direction the water spout will go in, so it's very random. You don't know which. So this is it's an interesting thing. If the player character is swimming in the water and a water spout's there, it could be hazardous. It could it could go into the same square as a player character, with that grenade bounce determining which random direction it goes. So I just thought that was fun. The Riptide is discussed. Hurricane is discussed again. Tidal wave. One of my favorites was actually Storm Surge. I love the idea of having a firefight like along a boardwalk, along the beach, very close to the ocean, and firefight breaks out, but there's this storm surge going on. And so the waves are crashing the surf wall, and the water's coming in. It's knocking people off their feet in the middle of the firefight. They got to make dexterity saves to keep their feet, not get swept away by the water. I just thought this was a great environmental hazard, particularly in a situation like a firefight between two opposing sides. So these were just rules written for these water hazards so you could use them in the game. And then we get an about the magazine, and the last thing is the introduction of Lesson 1 of Grymz Guide to Intergalactic Conquest. And we get this little green alien dude here named Grymz, and he's kind of sometimes an idiot. That's the fun of this comic. And so this is our introduction to Grymz, and this was a fairly long-running comic in the Frontier Explorer. So here you have the Frontier Explorer issue 1 from the summer of 2012. And this is going to kick off our next run, our season 2. I'm going to call this season 2 of the Frontier Fanzine Friday, excuse me. And so in the podcast, this will become season 2, issue 1, episode 1. But here we go with Fanzine Friday, number 26, Frontier Explorer number 1. This was a lot of fun when Tom and I just said, let's do our own magazine, and we kicked it off and we hit the ground running. and it has been a blast for the past 10 years to work on the Frontier Explorer. I want to thank Tom for being a great editor-in-chief and a good friend, and being our local NASA consultant, our local. Yeah, we have a rocket scientist on staff because he'd been a NASA consultant on the Fermi Space Telescope. It's part of his claim to fame. Just want to thank Tom for such a great run the past 10 years with the Frontier Explorer, and just a great fun little magazine expanding some of the setting in the Frontier for you. I hope you enjoy it. This is Tom, aka Jetian, signing out for the Star Frontiers Gamer and Tabletop Tap Room. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe and bell icon so you don't miss an issue in the future. And keep on gaming.